Did you know that the average person spends about 5 hours per day on their phone? Over time, that adds up to be about 76 days a year, and in the long run, if you live to be about 80, that's about 17 years of your life, maybe a little more or a little less depending on your personal usage, but either way, that's pretty wild. I did the math on my own screen time after I saw these stats, and I'm clocking in at about 4 hours per day, which is not great. I don't want to spend that much of my life looking at my phone. I don't know about you. Now, I'm not about to throw my phone away. I use it for work. I use it for my creative projects like this. I think my life, like a lot of yours, is deeply intertwined with digital spaces at this point, and it's a necessity. But knowing this did change my perspective a bit, and it's making me take some time to sit and reflect and really ask, where is my attention going and who is benefiting from it? I saw the comedian Bo Burnham on a panel in an online clip as I was scrolling Instagram, and he was making the point that they used to colonize land, and now big companies are coming to colonize our attention. It's a highly valuable resource to them and to us. And when we're spending our attention and time without intention, they are mining our focus, our energy, and our ability to think and concentrate deeply. But here's the thing, we can take control of it and use it to our benefit with intention. One of my all-time favorite books for the past 5 years since it came out essentially is How to Do Nothing by Jenny Odell. The full title is How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy. And as I heard these stats and started shifting my focus about all of this, it made me go back to the book for some sources of inspiration. In the book, she reminds us all that reclaiming our attention is not just about feeling less overwhelmed. It's about survival. There's a quote in the book that reads, "A social body that can't concentrate or communicate with itself is like a person who can't think and act." And as a writer especially, I know with this in mind, there are more impactful ways that I can be spending my time and attention, like by writing, that would be of more benefit to not only me, but the collective. And I think that's what we need more of right now. Because the thing is, if you are a writer like me, you probably have a gift for communicating complex messages to large amounts of people in clearer ways, in more engaging ways. And that's something that's desperately needed right now too. People need our art, people need our ideas. So instead of just scrolling, maybe we should be redirecting some of it there. And along with these thoughts, I wanted to share 5 ways that I am intentionally taking back my time and attention, largely inspired by Jenny Odell's book. And I'm dropping a link to the book below, also if you are interested in reading the full text and getting more ideas. So here we go. Number 1, I am examining my social media use very closely. Again, I'm not quitting social media. I did delete my personal Facebook and Instagram accounts, but that's another discussion for another video. I still do have my Bookstagram, this YouTube channel, and my Substack, and I also now have Blue Sky. So I added social media actually, but I did spend some time thinking about what am I using these platforms for and how much time am I spending on them. Ultimately, social media is a tool. It can serve a purpose for good and help us with things, but how we use it matters. So just maybe reflect on, what do you use it for? Do you want to use it more in certain ways and less in others? I just took an inventory of that for myself, and that's going to be different for all of us. A quote from the book that speaks to this, Jenny Odell writes, "I am less interested in a mass exodus from Twitter and Facebook than I am in a mass movement of attention." And I think that that's what I'm trying to get at here too. So I'm just being more intentional, less scrolling, more time spent on other things. And before I go to open an app, I am trying to sit and reflect, why am I here? What is the purpose of this right now? Am I posting something? Am I looking for something? Or is it just I'm opening it habitually because I'm bored, and maybe I need to be bored and sit in that boredom and embrace it so that I can have some creative ideas rather than scroll. As we know, it's not news to anyone, the algorithms are built to be addictive. So like others, I reach for my phone habitually all the time, and I don't want to do that anymore. I want to open it for a purpose and spend my time elsewhere if I don't have one. And in those moments that I do find myself reaching for it out of habit, I'm trying to refocus and do something else. Like I said, sit in boredom if I'm reaching for it because I'm bored, or grab a book, or go for a walk with my dog and listen to a podcast. So just redirecting that if there's not an overarching purpose for why I am opening my social media. Number 2, I'm trying to really be present with people when I am with them. Whether that's a friend having dinner or sitting at my family's house and we're not really doing anything. We're just sitting there but having loose conversation. I want to be present for those things. I think we've all been there where we've been out with a group of people or even one person and there's a phone on the table, or one of us reaches for our phone and starts looking at something. Maybe we got a text message. I've been that person that has done that. I've also been the person sitting there when that happens, and I have noticed in the past that doesn't really feel good. It's distracting, and it makes it kind of feel like the other person would rather be with their phone. There's something else more important to them than having the conversation that you're having, and I don't want to make people feel that way. So lately I am making an effort to not even have my phone out at all when I'm with people. In her book, Odell calls this a radical act. And it can feel a little radical because, again, like opening social media, it's such a habit for so many of us. But really, if we're intentional about it, I keep using that word intention, but I think it's the best one for all of this. Being intentional about these things and how we're engaging with technology and when is a radical act. And a reminder, as she says in the book, that there are other ways to exist if we choose to. So maybe no one else notices that I'm putting my phone away more, but I do, and that has an impact too. From a writer's point of view, I would also add that having your phone out all the time and scrolling constantly when you're out in public spaces, even alone, diminishes your ability to notice things. And as writers, noticing things is good. You might get an idea for another story or details to include in something you're writing. So if something's hurting our ability to notice, I don't know that that's such a good thing as a writer. Number 3, I'm giving more time to learning new things. Instead of scrolling, I'm taking classes and trying to do deep dives into things I'm interested in. Jenny Odell writes that what we give our attention to shapes our reality. And I don't know about you, but I don't want my reality dictated by an algorithm. Along with taking classes and deep diving into things that interest me, this goes back to the art of noticing too. It gives space for wonder and awe and glimmers of hope at the small, tiny things in life that we might just breeze by without noticing at all if we're not taking the time to slow down. This noticing is not just about being more productive, right? It's about being fascinated by the world around us. So instead of scrolling, take time for things like watching a documentary about medieval manuscripts, or listening to a podcast series about philosophy, or like I did recently, doing a deep dive online about the history of perfume making because it's interesting to me. Just whatever fascinates you, make time for that. And I don't think it's a wild reach to guess that scrolling is taking up a lot of our own personal time to do those things, not just mine. Focusing like this, I've also found that the longer I take with something, the more time I take reading about something or learning about something, the more I truly understand it. And that shapes how I see the world too. Number 4, I'm trying to spend more time outside. It's really easy to forget that there's a world out there. And this really ties into the last point too about slowing down and noticing. When I go outside, usually, except for the rare occasion where I have the intent of filming something, I'm leaving my phone in my pocket. I might have a podcast on, but otherwise I am trying to be present with everything that surrounds me. Be present with my dog while I'm walking him, paying attention to what he's paying attention to, and looking around at the neighborhood and what plants are growing around here. What birds am I seeing? Just noticing the environment as a whole. I might notice the shape of the clouds or the sound of the wind going through the trees or my feet hitting the pavement. These little details might sound silly, but it's kind of beautiful when you really take the time to notice them. This is attention and this is presence. And it's made my life feel richer the more I've been doing it. Number 5, I kind of hit on with the learning bit, but it's that I am investing more in long form content and not just sound bites. Our news environment today and these algorithms on social media and a lot of what we're looking at on our screens thrives on sound bites. And I create short form videos too sometimes, but I think that there's so much more depth in doing a deep dive into something. As I mentioned before, the more time you spend with a subject, the more you truly understand it. You're not going to get the full story and context from a soundbite or a short video, but they are great at catching attention, aren't they? Jenny Odell writes that it's a lot like breathing. Some kind of attention will always be present, but when we take hold of it, we have the ability to consciously direct, expand, and contract it. So I'm leaning into the long form. More reading over scrolling, more deep conversations over hot takes, more documentaries over 5-second clips. These are just some of the ideas and things I've been thinking about and trying to implement in my own life. I hope that it can be helpful and inspiring to you. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I think as writers, being really focused about where our attention is going is really impactful and can make us better writers. And maybe help us, if you're like me, not procrastinate so much and actually do the work of writing that we love to do so much. I'm not perfect at any of this. These are things that I am working towards and trying to be intentional about. Sometimes I still find myself reaching for my phone out of habit and not stopping myself and scrolling for a little longer than I'd like. But I hope over time, the amount of times that happens can go down more and more. So you can ignore this completely, roll your eyes at me, or join me. Your life is up to you, but I hope you found something valuable here in this video. Thanks for being here. I'm Lindy Callahan. I'm a writer, MFA grad, and tech content strategist. And if you enjoy this content, then please subscribe. I'd love to have you back here, or give me a like or a comment if you have something that you'd like to add. Until next time.